Okay. All right. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you. Tanya, who do we share with today? As we do almost every day. John, North Carolina, welcome. Elisa's in West Virginia, Boker Tov. June is joining us. I think someone new. Welcome. Susan is in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Good morning. Daphne is having a wonderful Wednesday in South Carolina. Johan is in California. Boker Tov. I don't know if the Boker is still, if the morning is even risen yet. Rena in Colorado, Boker Tov. Diane, good morning to you in Arizona. And David is in Gold River, California. Freilich and Hanukkah. Clem, Brisbane, where it's very late in Australia. Liba, Vida, twin sisters, good morning in Freilich and Hanukkah in New York. Darren is with us. Good evening in the Philippines. Leah, must be sunny Florida, I would imagine. Eugene is also in Florida, vacationing. Ahuva, welcome in Seattle. Very early. In Long Island, Michael is joining us. June is in Australia, late at night. Carlos in Costa Rica, shalom. Jackie in Charlotte, North Carolina, shalom. Mark, good morning. Miss anybody? Scott, I think is in Texas, if I recall correctly. We have Clubhauser, Vilma, Marcy, Celeste. We have Alan. We have Batya. We have Luz. We have David. We have Jay. Beautiful. Instagrammers into Telebenta. We have Rachel in South Carolina. Coy is with us in Peru. Wonderful. We have Max in Las Vegas. Okay. We begin the fourth chapter. Fourth chapter, one word, levushim, garments, clothes. Clothes make the man or the woman. Interesting phrase, right? Why does it make the man, not the woman? Good question. I don't have an answer. All right. Chapter 1, in one word, neshamas, souls, plural. That's what we need to start off with, knowing that we have a duality inside of us, or a potential duality. I mean, 5 different levels of people, and we have a duality. Second chapter, one word, chelik, a portion. We have the godly soul is a part of God, literally. Third chapter, after understanding the essence of the divine soul, where it comes from in chapter 2, a part of God, then what's the makeup of the soul? It's made up 10 components, 3 intellectual, 7 emotional, which we previously learned. This chapter now takes us to the next level of the soul, levushim, garments. And we're speaking specifically the divine soul. Chapter 6 through 8, we will speak about the animal/human soul. But now we're speaking Nefesh Elokis, the divine soul. So it's made up of garments, 3 garments specifically. What are the 3 garments? Thought, speech, and action. Right? Thought is the way I express myself to myself. Speech is the way I express myself to you, and action likewise. So this is why it's called garments, because a garment you can take on and off. You could choose what you want to wear in your thought, speech, and action. When it comes to feelings, you can't choose how you feel about something unless you're righteous, and if you work through and you've transformed your animal soul, as we spoke in chapter 1. Very few righteous in every generation can do that. But here we're talking about, something as levushim, garments. So garment you can take on and off, and that's why thought, speech, and action are called garments, because I could choose how to act. I could choose how to dress myself up in my words, and even in my thoughts, which is, by the way, unique. But we'll see when we speak about thought, we mean cogitated thought, right? And recall that we're speaking here about the thought, speech, and action, meaning the self-expression, just like clothes make the man because they express the individual. So likewise, the soul is being expressed. The 10 divine attributes are being expressed through the 3 garments of thought, speech, and action. Right? Where's that expression going to be, though, of the divine soul when we say thought, speech, and action? Well, it's going to be the 613 commandments of the Torah and the Torah study. In other words, when you fulfill the mitzvahs in action, like, in action, I'm wearing tzitzis. In speech, I'm occupying myself now in words of Torah, right? And in thought, I'm occupying my mind in understanding and comprehending the words of Torah, right? By way of example, right? Speech could be, prayer. Speech could be a blessing. Speech could be many of the different commandments. So when your soul is got 613, figuratively speaking, organs, components, right? I've got an arm. For all intents and purposes, we call it an organ, okay? It's not like organ like a liver, right? Or your kidneys. Right? So when we say 613 components, or 613 mitzvahs, that they need to be expressed in the 613 components of my soul. It's called organs. Again, figuratively speaking, meaning like an arm. What do I have on my arm? I have a sleeve. I have a garment that adorns my arm. I have a garment adorning my shoulder. All different elements of my being, right? So what do we need? The 613 commandments need to be expressed, adorned in my soul that is made up of 613 parts. Just as the human body is made up of 248 human limbs, right? Again, we call them, the term is used organs, but, call it limbs, if you will, or components, whatever. And 365 blood vessels that together are the positive and the negative commandments that equal 613. So just as my arm needs a to be donned with a garment, so likewise my soul also needs a garment to fully be clothed in the garment. So I need 613 commandments that have to be expressed, thought, speech, and action. So what does that mean? So specifically, the Alter Rebbe explains that the Chabad of the soul, right, meaning your intellectual faculties, that you have Chachma, Bina, V'das. Those are powers of the soul, right? Powers of the soul now need to be implemented, used, revealed, expressed. That's called a garment. So how am I using my intelligence to express it? Thinking. It's the first place, right? Using my understanding, right, to think about words of Torah. And to grasp it in thinking. How? Grasping the words of Torah through thought. That is the garment that will allow the Chabad of my soul to be expressed. So in other words, my intelligence, you can have a very high IQ, but that doesn't mean you're ever thinking anything of intelligence. I'm teaching. Sim.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Sorry, folks. I pressed the wrong. My apologies. I pressed the wrong button. Okay. So again, you can have great intelligence, right? Great brain power, great chachma, great bina, but that doesn't mean it's ever going to be expressed. How does it get expressed? I mean, think about it. So you can have someone who's got maybe a lower intelligence, but they're thinking Torah. They're thinking wisdom, right? Sorry. Okay, my apologies. So, when it comes to the emotions, which are the two basic emotions are love and fear. I don't know what's happening. I'm sorry, with the Instagram is completely like out of whack because I pressed the wrong button. All right. Anyways, so when it comes to the emotions, love and so here's a tricky thing. When it comes to intelligence, of course you got to think it. Otherwise, without thinking it, you have no vehicle for the intelligence. But how about emotions of love and awe? And of course, again, remember we're speaking about the divine soul. So this is about the divine connection. Is there a necessity to reveal that in any right? In other words, for there to be a connection when it comes to the intelligence of your brain, of Chachma, Bina, V'das, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, you need to think words of Torah that we get, right? Because without thinking it, you won't comprehend it. But when it comes to love and awe of God, why do we need speech or action? You got the feeling, right? Emotions are in the heart. Why does it need to be spoken or acted upon? In other words, why is it, if I have a love of God, why do I have to put on tefillin? Many people tell me this, or some people, I should say many. Some people tell me that, Rabbi, I love God. I don't need to put on tefillin. But here we're saying that the soul has love of God, the divine soul, but it needs to express it through the act of a mitzvah. So the answer is, as we expressed previously, that the soul is made up of 248 components. 613 altogether, but 248 there's 248 organs of the soul, 248 positive commandments, and each one of the components of the soul needs the fulfillment of the mitzvah. The organ, rather, the arm needs to be clothed, right? The foot needs, the leg needs to be clothed. Each organ needs its clothing. Each organ component of the soul needs its clothing in order that it should be complete. Meaning, to truly love God cannot just be in feeling, it has to be through the fulfillment of the commandment. Because the commandment ultimately, the 248 positive commandments, are the commandments God himself has, figuratively speaking, 248 organs too. And therefore, that feeling of love and awe that you have of God needs okay, I'm sorry. God, figuratively speaking, has 248 components, desires, if you will. 248. Those are expressed that we have a piece of him in us. That piece of it in us, our soul has 248 components, organs, if you will. In order that that organ of that part of that soul, or that component of the soul, that it should be connected, it's not enough the love and the awe of God. It needs the expression of the mitzvah in 248 of the positive commandments of the Torah, which is done through thought, speech, and action. Okay. And that's it. Okay. That was a mouthful. I hope that was somewhat clear. We're going to have more clarity on it tomorrow when we discuss it further. Because there's something inherently difficult over here, which I'll only bring up tomorrow. Yeah, the Instagram feeds. I pressed the wrong button, so it didn't fix itself at all. Sorry, Instagrammers. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts, any discussion over here? Alan, yes, give me a moment. All right. Alan, please share with us. Unmute.
I always forget to do that, Rabbi. But happy so we're talking about these malbushim, these
garments. Yes.
Garments, yeah. And we're talking about Hanukkah also. Yeah, well, we're not talking about Hanukkah, but it is Hanukkah.
Yes, it is Hanukkah.
And the thought of this kind of brings to mind some Tehillim, Psalm 104, Borchi Nafshi. In particular, the second sentence where it says, Ote Ork is Salma, Note Shemayim Kiyira.
Right.
And you know, so I think this is a real connection to Hanukkah also, because it's speaking of Hashem being wrapped in a robe of light, you know? Ote Ork Salma.
Right. We actually, we studied that, by the way, if you recall, in Igeres HaKodesh, in one of the letters. I'd have to look it up and recall which letter. But, yeah, that God covers himself with a salma, with a garment, right? And of light, yes.
You know, and here's Hanukkah, you know, so I think it's, you know, so I you know, there's more that I find in this particular sentence that's relevant. I don't want to go into more detail, but, you know, it's just like I'm thinking of that, you know.
Right.
And you also mentioned these three different levels, you know, this machshava of thought and dibur and action underneath that.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, this is, I don't know, maybe we can't get into this, but, you know, of the four worlds, you know, of the four worlds of Atzilus and Bria and Yetzirah and Asiya, it looks like we're looking down from Bria. You have thought and
Bria is thought, right?
Because action is clearly on the bottom, right?
Right.
Thought is in Bria, in the world of creation.
Because that's the world of comprehension. Comprehension. Right. You need to think. To comprehend.
Is Dibur in the world of Yetzirah, would that be?
Yeah, because that's the world of emotion. The emotion, what you speak about, is what you have an emotional attachment towards, right? And you express, why emotion is about another. Speech is also about another. If there was no other person to connect to, then you wouldn't have to speak. You could just think.
Yeah.
Right? When you are lost in thought, you're lost in yourself, you're lost in thought, you're not connected to another. When you feel a connection to another, then what you want to do is express that connection through speech.
So the Alter Rebbe mentioned these three in this particular order for that reason?
Well, the first thing is thought, like in the order of how things manifest is first in thought, right? In other words, first you have a perspective. Your intelligence gives you a perspective on something. That perspective that you have in your intelligence will feed your emotions to give you um, an emotional um, angle or feeling about it, and from that feeling, then, if the strong feeling that you have will then bring you to think about it. And then thinking about it, then it'll bring you to talk about it. And from talking about it, then it'll bring you to act upon it. So that would be the order.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Rabbi.
You're very welcome. Luz, please share with us.
Chag Sameach, Rabbi, and
Chag
everybody.
Sameach. Yes, Afreilach and Chanukah.
Yep. Rabbi, you reminded me in the part that you were talking about the body needs this 200, and I can't remember the number.
248.
248 members to be fed. I don't know why I thought about our thoughts and our actions create angels. Was it thoughts and actions, or was it only thoughts? When we create angels?
It was through speech.
Oh, it's speech. Okay. Well, okay, so I jumped. All right, so when we say something, well, we had to think about it, and then we take the action of speaking, okay, saying something about it. So we create these little angels. I see these little angels as forms of energy that go out, come back, and we get a, how can I say it? There's an action, a reaction. So when you talked about tefillin, which when you talked about the actions, the ritual, you didn't mention rituals or anything like that, but I'm encompassing everything: lighting the candles, praying, everything that is done throughout the year to commemorate something in Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
People are creating little angels. They're sending little little puffs of energy, of light that comes back, and people get a reaction. I would say a reward. I would say re-energizing.
Right.
The belief, the emotion, the energy within ourselves. Does that make sense?
Well, yes, of course. When you speak something, you create a mass. You create a reality by your speech. Action, obviously, but in a sense, even more by speech. So, yeah, that's actually something we're going to talk tonight about in TRC about that. Yes, you're absolutely correct.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi. Somebody's calling you.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. Beautiful, yes. Okay, I saw a question over here from Davida. When Mashiach comes, will there still be wearing the same garments as before? Yeah, because remember we're talking about here the garments of the godly soul. So what garments meaning the self-expression of the godly soul? So what will that self-expression be if thought, speech, and action will be in what? In doing a mitzvah. So it's not a self-expression outside of a mitzvah. We're going to learn about that when we come to the animal soul and understand what its self-expression is and how it's different. Okay? So will there be wearing garments? Of course, because garments mean self-expression. Just as the clothes make the man, meaning that they express the man, right? They make the man, because they're expressing him, right? Clothes can honor you and bring out, something special and wonderful about you, or clothes can, of course, diminish and make you less. But they have the capability of making the man. Actually, tomorrow we're going to speak more about that. Very interesting. What's more important, the clothes I wear or me? Obviously me, right? Likewise with you. Tomorrow we're going to see something interesting. That when it comes to the mitzvah and the love and awe versus the expression of it, what's greater? Be very interesting. Okay? But we'll wait for that for tomorrow. Okay, I'm sorry for the Instagrammers. I don't, again, press the wrong button because I created a problem. Tomorrow will be another day. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zurich and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you. Tanya Rambam is coming up now. And again, tonight, TRC at 7:30. Come and join us for those who are involved. And if you're not yet in there, join us. Be well.